Esports in 2023 is one of the biggest global sensations to hit the market. The industry is growing at a faster rate than it ever has before, with incredibly popular events happening almost 24/7. And now after the pandemic, there's even more out there for people with this passion. The industry is currently thriving, but I think we should do this somewhere else. Hi, my name's Scarlett, and today I will be your esports lecturer instead of Kevin. So let's take a look at what makes different esports titles successful. Back in 2012, Nintendo had just brought out the Wii U. Statistically, one of their worst selling consoles to date, and even being called a straight up failure by most critics. But fast forward to 2015, and the release of Splatoon 1 was bound to change this. A game like none Nintendo had ever done before, Splatoon is a third-person shooter game with a plethora of different weapons and abilities, a wide range of different maps, and originally 4 different game modes. Not only was there a single-player story mode, but there was also a competitive online multiplayer with a ranking system and rotating competitive queues. This was huge for Nintendo and the esports community, as it brought a breath of fresh air for a scene dominated by dull, military-style FPS games and time-consuming MOBAs. Now, with 2 other installments, a new game mode introduced in Splatoon 2, more weapons, more maps, and a thriving community, Splatoon 3 is quickly making itself known as a figurehead in modern-day esports. 2016 was an exciting time for esports, with games like Counter-Strike and League of Legends leading the scene by a mile. However, when Blizzard released their FPS Overwatch, this completely changed. A colourful and exciting shooter game with different roles, fun game modes, and interesting lore going behind it, Overwatch quickly caught on to gamers worldwide. It was fast-paced, unlike other FPS games we'd previously seen, and it also stood out graphics-wise with its almost anime-esque art style. The Overwatch League was then also quickly established and became a staple in the competitive esports scene. From a new installment, partnerships with YouTube, collaborations with One Punch Man and LE SSERAFIM, and more content being added every year, Overwatch is a house classic that truly won't be forgotten. Community is such an important part of the success of esports titles, as in the end, the community are the ones consuming the content being produced and providing the support for players, creators, and publishers to be able to keep up activity within their games. Let's have a look at how these communities differ between esports titles and what creators think of the people involved with their games. Splatoon has a reputation for being one of the most welcoming communities in gaming, and this is very evident throughout the content that is published by creators on multiple platforms across the globe. Take that SRB2 dude for example, a streamer and content creator with over 120k subscribers on YouTube, competitive player for UK Champions Team Spark, and a good friend of mine. I hopped in a call to ask him a few questions about what it's like balancing all of the above, and also how the community has impacted the growth of Splatoon esports.
Hi! Hello, dude.
Hi.
But go on, introduce yourself, tell people like what you do, what your thing is.
Right. So I am that SRB2 dude, or dude as most people call me. I've been a content creator for it's gonna be 12 years this year.
Oh.
And I'm a professional Splatoon 3 player.
No way.
And also, of course, streamer as well, Twitch ambassador, and last year's UK Splatoon 3 champion.
Woo. Okay, my next question for you is, do you think that Nintendo is like good at engaging with the community?
In terms of like engaging with the community, I feel like that they're trying to do a better job of it, especially when it comes to Nintendo of North America and 100% with Nintendo UK, because they're all really good people and you just want the best. Because I think it's just such an awkward scenario, because like North America and EU or UK, whichever, all want the huge esport thing to happen with Splatoon or not, or all that type of stuff. But with how kind of Nintendo works, nothing can happen if Japan doesn't have the final say in it. Majority of the time, at least from like 3 European champs at this point, and they have definitely done a good job.
Yeah. The last question I have is, what's the biggest impact that the community has had on the game?
The community. I think the biggest impact the community has had on the game is just genuinely just how welcoming the community can be compared to various other gaming communities. Like, I feel like the Splatoon community does a really good job of just like keeping everyone in check and making sure that we're all doing right for each other, and like no one's getting bullied, no one's getting the short end of a stick or something. Or I think people really just care for each other, which is really good, and they try to accept as many people as possible.
That's all the questions I have for now, but any final shout outs, promotions you wanna you wanna promote to?
Hi, Kevin.
On the other end of the scale, however, Overwatch is known for having a not very likable community, with people even saying that the community is worse than Activision Blizzard themselves. Take the reaction to Overwatch 2, for example. After getting rid of some fan-favourite maps, taking away 6-player teams, and nearly completely revamping the whole game, loyal Overwatch fans were way less than happy. Similarly, in League of Legends, the community over there is renownedly known as the most toxic community in esports. So toxic that Riot Games themselves have to stop players from typing and pinging, which is some key in-game mechanics. It's interesting to see how some games have managed to keep their communities clean and enjoyable, whereas some have blatantly ignored toxicity issues and still struggle to keep things under wraps. Due to how huge Overwatch is as an esport, it requires a lot of management to maintain competitive integrity. One way that Overwatch League does this is through rulebooks, which they release for every season and is also easily accessible for the public, not just the players. There's also referees on stage overlooking the players at LAN events, as well as through field of view cameras when playing online tournaments. This has been very successful, as the Overwatch League hasn't reported an instance of cheating in an official match since 2021. The Overwatch League are dedicated to ensure fairness and clarity within their esport, which is something that sometimes publishers can shove aside. Splatoon, however, is a bit more interesting when maintaining competitive integrity. Since the recent community guidelines, there have been a whole load of restrictions on community tournaments, from not being allowed to sell refreshments, to player number limits, and also licenses that give people permission to run tournaments in the first place. There is also some expectations that Nintendo staff expect, but aren't exactly rules. For example, Spark player Chano getting told to quieten down during UKC. Referees are rarely seen on stage, but this is also due to the fact that cheating in a Nintendo game is very difficult and easily noticeable. Blizzard have always been very supportive of competitive Overwatch over the years, right up until the shutdown of the Overwatch League last year. Maybe sometimes too supportive, as people have said that Overwatch esports has felt forced. This is quite similar to Valorant, except the only issues people have had with Valorant's willingness to keep things professional is the sometimes overly harsh punishments for players breaking rules. However, Riot are especially good at pushing for players to always be at important events and making sure that everything is accessible enough. They sort out visa issues quickly, promote their games, and regularly encourage people to push to top level. Nintendo, on the other hand, not so much. I previously mentioned the community guidelines making it extremely difficult for Nintendo esports to progress, but there have also been issues with teams not being able to make it to tournaments as the company doesn't provide travel or accommodation costs. This was an issue during the 2023 UK Championships, as the team Chewits Mafia had one player flying from Ireland and the rest travelling from Wales, Scotland and Southern England with no easy accommodation either. This meant that they nearly weren't able to play in the biggest UK event of the year, all because of Nintendo's lack of support for esports. This has been very evident, especially if you look at controversies like #FreeMelee. Oh dear, it looks like we've run out of time for the rest of today's class. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed and learnt something new. And don't forget your homework for next week.